Hello, everyone. If you've been with me a while, you may remember that a couple months ago I took a class on inkle weaving, and I had made a couple different bands. It's a small loom that is specifically made for creating small band style projects. You can only go about this wide. And this was done with a very thin cotton. And then this one was done with the same amount of strings, but a thicker cotton. So these were my first two projects. They're the only projects I've done so far. And I have plans of a couple different things that I want to make. But my son came to me and he says, "Mom, I've got a belt that my dad, his grandfather, had given him. And he likes the belt. It was given to him by his grandpa, but it's a little bit too short for him." And he said, "Maybe you could change the band for me." I'm like, "Okay, I can do this." So then he started thinking about colors and stuff. And I said, "There's a program that's on the internet that the Annie McHale, who had taught the class I took, had told us about the program and how to use it and everything." I said, "We can go on that program and we can input the colors and we can play around with the pattern and everything and get exactly what you want." So the colors that he chose are these three colors. They are a Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. They are a mercerized cotton. And when I did this one, these are not a mercerized cotton, so it's a lot fuzzier, and it was actually a lot fuzzier as I worked with it too. Different things pulled through, you had little fuzzy pills to it, where my first band didn't. And this, being a mercerized cotton, should not have all the fuzzy pilling. So I sat him down on the computer and we played around with a couple different ideas. And so this is the program editor. It's specifically for inkle looms. And we started off with so like this one here has a green warp. So that's what the little green dots are over here along the sides. And we just had the three colors right there in the center. And so then we just started playing around and changing. Hey, where am I at? Okay. Yep. Okay, so we started changing. So we, zigzagged the orange, and that was nice. Added a little bit more. We switched and put the orange out here. And first we actually still had that green warp in it. But then we went and we changed that, so it just created this nice band on the edge. But then it seemed like it was a little bit too much orange. So we brought it down a little bit. Still weren't real fond of it. So then we switched it so it was just this more straight line, which was nice, but wanted a little bit of interest in it. And so we went through a number of different iterations till we finally ended up with this as our final decision. And it's a fun program because you can specifically put those colors in. You can adjust them to the right hue. There's actually parts in here where you can load a specific yarn and its color. It's got a data bank of lots of different yarns. So we got all these colors, pretty much what we were needing. This is the same amount of heddles as what I used on the other two bands I showed you. So it's going to have the orange stripe on the outside. So this one is actually color amber. And then you're going to have the two sides that kind of create like a zipper. The green is called grass, and the teal is actually called jade. So if you decide you're wanting to recreate it, those are the colors that we used. The first thing that we're going to need to do is actually warp the loom. And that means we've got to put all these threads onto the loom, and that's where the patterning is. So we actually have to look back at this pattern And these top 2 bars up here, that's the 2 heddles that we're going to be using. And this tells you how you're going to warp that loom. So you're going to put an orange on that's going to be unheddled. You'll put one that's on that's heddled, and you're going to go back and forth, up and down, as you put these different ones on across the whole set. That will fully create this pattern later on. It's a 2-row repeat. As we go back and we're actually doing the weaving is just one thread. It's going to be that orange color, and that's why we had that little bump on the edge, because if you look at the ones I did before, I challenged myself right out of the gate, and I actually did on this one, I did a white that I wove with, and on this one I did an orange that I wove with. So that color actually pops out on the edge. And why I say I was challenging myself, if you go back to the beginning of this one where I was learning what I was doing, and you can actually see this shape here kind of goes in and out because I was pulling too tight or not tight enough. If you look like right there on the edge, you'll see where this little nubbin kind of sticks out further. I had that happen in a few different places. There you can see a couple right there. And if you do the same color warp, you don't see that as much, especially when you're first starting out. But I did want to challenge myself. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing that. And if I saw it, then I was more conscious of it and I was fixing it. But on this one, because of the look that he wants, we're going to do that orange so it'll be the same color. This one here is going to get wrapped onto this, and that's going to be the only thing we worry about when we're actually weaving. So just this one going back and forth. But as we raise and lower the heddles, the colors that are wrapped on there is what's going to actually create our pattern. So the hardest part is the warping of the loom, making sure that those threads are in the right place. But then once you start weaving, it's just back and forth and making sure you don't get those little nubbies on the edges. So this is called an inkle loom. It's a little different than some you might see. I have a Gilmore loom. It has this big paddle, and a lot of them you don't see that big paddle. This is actually where your tensioning is on this loom. A lot of people, their loom has a tensioning down there at the beginning. Mine's a little different in that sense, but we are going to use, these are our heddles, and we're going to use that as we warp. So our warp is going to start here. It's going to go up and here, and it's going to go back and forth and then around the tension and back to the beginning. And the next one is actually going to come straight over to this one and skip that one. And that creates our 2 different heddles. So then we'll be able to raise and lower. So one thread is going to be hooked on this. The other thread will be hooked up here, and that's going to make it to where we can move these pieces back and forth and do our weaving. And this is actually the belt that we are replacing. So this is the band, and that's the belt buckle that's going to be on it. So that pops right off. We're going to make a new band, and then it'll go right back onto there. I think I'm now at the point where I'm done with the green, so I don't actually need that one anymore. Set it back there for the moment. Now we're just going to be working, we'll just be working on blue until we get to the last tiny bit of orange. This is my heddle peg. These are your heddles, they're just a loop, and I go over my top one, pull the heddle back down over it, and it holds it there. I'm going to wrap or warp around all these different pegs. I'm doing this on the largest setting. I can skip pegs and make a smaller band. I'm doing a large band. So now I'm coming back around, and this one is going to be unheddled. So no heddle, and it's going straight to this one. Everything else is the same. So that means when we actually start weaving, our heddled and unheddled, we put our shed in and weave into those spaces. Everything is warped now, so I'm going to trim my threads, tie them off, and then we can get our shuttle ready and start weaving. So you want to make sure that your heddle's at the right position. You get the same amount of space here as you do when you push it down. So these need to come up a little bit. So that should be okay. And then you're going to take 2 handy dandy popsicle sticks and slide in right here, doing your sheds up and down. And they're just going to be here for a little bit at the start of weaving. We're now going to take our orange and we're going to put some onto our shed. And I have some on here from a previous project that I'm just going to leave there for now because I've got too much on there to take the time to pull it off. My husband made this shed for me. It's really nice. Some people think it's a little bit too big, but I like it. So you can weave you can wrap 2 different ways onto the shed, just going around and around. You can also do a figure 8 at the top of it. And because I don't want to take the chance of running out, I tend to do it both ways, so I can pack more onto it. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling up my shed, tapping this down, pulling through, leaving a little bit of a tail, and pulling this down. And then I'm going to lower my shed, and again, tap down. I'm going to hold that up, and I'm going to pull my thread down and take that tail and pull it back through. So they are both locked into there. That's going to lock my tail in. So now you pay attention to which way your shed's going by which hand. So I've got this in this hand, and I come to the back and I'm lifting my shed up. I push this down so that my threads are down nice and tight. I'm going to hold on to this thread, and I'm going to pinch right here at the edge as I pull that thread through so that I get it nice and smooth here on the edge, which will keep it from doing that little nibby thing. So now I've got the shed in my other hand, and coming this way I know I'm pushing down. I'm going to push down on my threads again, and then do the same thing and hold that thread as I come through so that I get a nice smooth edge. And that's all we are going to do. Just keep going back and forth in the same manner. And as we get a little ways down and we don't have enough room here to keep passing it through, then we will move the whole band around the whole loom. Okay, so going up, pushing down, holding that thread, pulling it through. And I am not an expert. I've only done this 2 other times. But it's very repetitive, and at this point, relatively simple. As long as you remember to hold this thread, because if you don't hold that thread, then you start getting those little nibs. And this shed has a point, an edge to it, which helps when you're putting down. Now, some people will pack it like this, but you can also just push it. You can also twist it. And I found when I was packing it too much, I was getting things too tight and they were going kind of wonky. And you also don't want to pull this thread too tight, or that's when it starts doing this. You want to just have a nice, smooth, consistent pull to it. Now that we're a little ways down, we can actually pull these 2 out. They're just to help start you off. So we don't need those there. And the beginning, at least for me, is always a little bit wonky. Let's do a couple more and I will show you how it's looking. So there is how the pattern is looking. It's going to continue just along the same thing. It's that 2-row repeat, and we have all of this warp to go through, and we'll just keep rotating it. This is giving us tension that we can tighten and loosen as we need it, and we'll keep rotating. We'll actually, when we rotate it, we'll pull this up so it's a little bit looser, and then we'll rotate it through. You'll have to adjust this a little bit each time you rotate it. Then you push the tension back down and you keep working. I will come back at the end and show you how to finish it off and take it off the loom. I've gotten this as far as it needs to go for the project that we are doing with it. So now to finish it off, we just have a couple little steps. I grabbed out, that's not gonna focus, it's too thin, there we go. I grabbed out another heddle. I'm gonna take this through one more set. So, let's see, we're going up and we are going through. Then we're keeping this open and we're going to take that heddle and we're going to lay it in here. And that's just going to lay there. Okay, so now we're going to take our shuttle again, drop it, tighten our and come back through just like we've been doing. Then we're going to cut our yarn and we're going to take that yarn, thread it through the hole, the loop in the heddle, and leaving it so that it's just a little bit of it in it, like threading a needle. So there's just a little bit there. And we're going to pull that heddle all the way through. And that's going to lock that last piece right down in. So now we can take, and I am going to look about halfway in between, just because that's what I like to do. It doesn't really matter. That's the way I do it. So I'm going to go about halfway in between. And I'm just going to cut this off. We'll pull this out of the heddles. this off of the loom. And there is our strap. So the strap's all the way done. Here's how the band looks. I think it looks really cool. And it's got that look like our original pattern. So it came out really well. There's different ways you can finish off the end depending on what you're doing. You could braid these, you could leave them fringe, you could tie knots and like macrame them. Depending on the fiber you're using, you could heat seal the ends. For what we are doing, we are actually going to end up taking and folding that over and stitching it. So if it works right, the one end is actually going to end up in this. So that's going to clamp down on the end. And the other end will finish off and it will actually end up in this piece. So the little stitched end will get clamped into here, and then the other end will go into this, and that will be your threading end. So that's how this one is going to get finished off. But nice long strap. We've got more than enough here for what we need. You could do this and make a guitar strap. You could do all kinds of stuff. There's so many different options. Anything that you have that has a like a nylon strap, backpacks and stuff, you could technically change them out and do one you've woven. And this is not a tutorial. I am not professional at this. This is only my third strap, and I'm just walking you along, but telling you what I was doing along the way too. If you want more information, definitely check out Annie McHale. I will link her YouTube. She's absolutely wonderful. She has done so many things. She's got a couple books out. And this is her. Really, really nice lady. She's got all kinds of patterns and stuff in her books. She's got detailed instructions. Some of the things that, you know, have inspired her as she makes some of her different designs. So really wonderful person. She has done this most of her life, and she's got website, she's got books, she's got the YouTube. Definitely check her out and learn from a master. Okay, there we go. We have a completed belt. I think it looks pretty awesome. So here's the whole strap of it, but there it is, all finished, ready to be used. And it looks really nice. So there's a belt. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure and click like and subscribe. And I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye.